Okay, so 1 second. We are going to share the screen right here. So everyone could wait, what's happening here? Okay. 1 second. No. Okay. Sorry about that. Welcome, everyone. Welcome for nurturing relationships. Lesson number 1. Sure.
Can we do introduction?
Yes, absolutely. That's a very good idea because we are here to build relationships, right? So Marsha just suggested we should go around the table and everyone should introduce themselves so we could create a little bit more of a empathy connection. This is what relationships are all about. So first of all, I mean, I hope you know me by now, Rabbi Mendy Goldschmidt.
Rob Rubenstein,
Where from?
Silverdale.
Philadelphia.
Marsha Rubenstein from Silverdale.
Val Stapleton. We actually live in Brennan, or I live with other people.
All
A
right.
long way.
I
Yeah.
did. Well, I used to live in Polsbo, so I had my connection here.
You're still very much connected here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Barbara Gamble and I live in Paulsboro.
Ah, awesome.
24 years.
Wow.
24 years.
And I'm Jackie Boland,
And I'm Bobo.
and we live just up the road.
Yeah, amazing. So we have Bainbridge, we got Polsboro, we got Silverdale, we got all the way up to the north, and we got our friends on Zoom. Welcome everyone. Again, those on Zoom, it will be great to see you with your cameras on if you're able to. So we create a little more of a feeling of a real class here. So we are about to explore really a journey all about relationships and how the Torah guides us in building a better, healthier relationships. I can't tell you how much I'm excited personally about this course. Preparing the material already, I hope made me already a better husband, a better father, and a better friend. And I can't wait to see. Hey, come on in.
We'll give you a critique at the end of the course. How's
Oh,
that?
please. And I can't wait to see what the impact everyone is going to have in all of our relationships. Hello, Bruce. How are you? Good to see you. So just a few announcements just before we start this journey. This course, we offer 2 joining options: Wednesday evenings and Sunday mornings, 11 a.m. And what I wanted to say is that these classes are interchangeable. If for whatever reason a Wednesday doesn't work for you, you could always jump over on Sunday and join us for that, either in person or on Zoom, and vice versa. You could always join us for whichever one. Here you have pens and papers. For this kind of course, I would encourage you to have it handy. And if you hear an idea, a line that resonates with you, that you feel like this could actually something that I could actually take personal, write it down. It will be helpful to take with you and think about and resonate and kind of build when you come back home. We are going to, throughout the course, of course, learn Torah's perspective on human relationships, all different relationships that we're going to see. And of course, all along the journey, we're going to also use modern psychological terms. We're going to see how all these terms are all going back. We could find them all in the Torah, and this is going to be fascinating. So we're going to do a combination of Torah and modern psychology or science, whatever you want to call it. And the way we're going to do the course is we're going to establish some perspectives, okay, some attitudes from the Torah about relationships, and then we're going to make it practical every week, focusing on a different skill that is very important in relationships, as we're going to see soon. All right, are we ready to start? L'chaim. So we're going to be in page number 3. Page number 3 goes all the way to the beginning of Genesis, beginning of the Torah, creation. God created the entire world. God created Adam and Eve. Humanity starting. And here, let's see what is the description. The manufacturer is announcing his statement, what this creature needs. And let's see text number 1. Rob, you want to take it away?
God said, "It is not good for the human to be alone. I shall make for him a corresponding counterpart."
Okay. Anyone familiar with this verse? Raise your hands. Very good. Oh, everyone. Well, so usually we understand this verse to mean that Hashem saw that Adam was alone and he said, okay, it's not good for the man to be alone. Let's give him a wife. Okay. A good idea? Wonderful idea, right? The most wonderful idea. But most commentators actually understood this to mean something much more than just marriage. Although marriage is, of course, the most wonderful and cherished relationship, this statement is no good. It's not good for a person, for a human to be alone. It's a general statement. Even before we get to the wife part, a human being, a person, in order to strive, in order to live life, need company, need relationships, need others. We cannot do life alone. We're not meant to do life alone. We all need support system. We need friends. We need, of course, a spouse. We need family. We need co-workers. We need neighbors. Whatever it is that any kind of relationship, we need that, because this is part and parcel of what human beings are. You know, it's very interesting that you see it practically. Anyone ever heard of a little city called Roseto in Pennsylvania? Roseto. I think that's how you pronounce it. Roseto. Right. Yeah. It's a little town, and I think in the 60s they found, without getting all the details, how exactly they found that little shtetl, little town. But interestingly, they found that shtetl, that little town, I don't know how many people live there. They're all basically descendants came from from Italy, from a place, Roseto in Italy, that basically they established themselves in Pennsylvania, somewhere I think in the mountains, and built that town and called it Roseto. And a visiting doctor once basically discovered from fellow doctors in that town that people over there lived way longer than the average in America, and they suffered crazy amount of I mean, I think 50% less heart disease than average in the country, and 30% less in any other disease. And I think in the 60s, heart disease was one of the most prevalent problems in America. But in that little town, they didn't suffer from that, and people over there lived, everyone, but many people over there lived for over 100. It's a normal thing, and they started making studies like, what is it? Is it genetics? They found it's not genetics, because other people living in other places, coming from the same Roseto in Italy, living in other places, did not have that. Maybe it's the food. No, they're eating the same junk that we all eat. It wasn't that. Maybe it's the weather. Other towns around, nothing. What is that? And then they figured out something fascinating. And what they found out was that these people were very much interconnected with each other. That town was absolutely social. People were walking into each other's homes, checking on each other. How you doing? Gatherings were just a regular thing. Everyone was going to, whatever. They were going to the church, or they're going to different religious services. Everyone together. It was a very one family, and it was a very family-oriented place, social-oriented, and science figured that is the reason why they suffered medically less than anyone else. Why they lived longer? Why? Because they had the support system that we all should have. This is just an example of how this idea of it's not good for a person to be alone. A person needs relationships. Okay. The problem is, all right, I know I need relationships. Okay, I need to have friends, but many times the way we look at relationships is, and I would love to hear from you if you share this kind of view at times, not always, but oftentimes we think we're doomed. Okay, let's say it frankly. This is my friends. That's it. I mean, I can't really make more friends, or I can't. Meaning the relationship that I have, this is what I have. Blame it on genetics. Blame it on I don't know what. There are many other factors that we want to blame our relationships, the quality of our relationships, or relationships in general, or the problems in our relationships. And we were like, yeah, if we were just educated better, or better born better, look better, or whatever it is, we'll have better relationships. Oftentimes that's kind of what comes to mind. This is who I am. And like I'm introvert. All right, I'm introvert. What like I can't change that. What is the Torah's attitude? Ethics of the Fathers. Anyone familiar with that? So the Ethics of the Fathers teaches us, the Mishnah, the Talmud teaches us a fascinating statement. Text number 2, page 4. Marsha, you want to take it away?
Yehoshua ben
Parachia.
Parakia would say, appoint a teacher for yourself, acquire a friend for yourself, and judge all people
Hey.
favorably.
Yoshua ben Parachia, and just a side note, I think it's important. It's not important for the flow of the class, but I think it's fascinating. Who was this Yoshua ben Parachia? This Yoshua ben Parachia, which says here, judge all people favorably. I think people will find it fascinating. Yoshua ben Parachia was the teacher of Jesus. You know that? And the Talmud, tells a whole Talmudic account on how basically there was Jesus did not behave properly, and this Yoshua ben Parachia, his rabbi, kind of was very cynical, and did not want to accept him, and a whole back and forth. And that is basically the bottom line. That is what caused him to go and start a whole new religion and everything else that came from it. And here Yoshua ben Parachia is coming, basically saying his life lesson. I learned my lesson. Judge everyone favorably. But that's not the purpose of our conversation now. Our conversation now is going to actually talk about the middle statement. What is the middle statement? Acquire yourself a friend. This is an interesting way to refer to friendship, isn't it? How would you say, if I would tell you, have friends? How would you say it? There isn't even a command like have friends. I can't. Like I'm introvert. I can't. And here comes Yoshua ben Parachia and tell you, acquire yourself a friend. What does acquire? Acquire means invest in it. You acquire a home. How do you acquire a home? You save, you work hard, you save, you research, it takes a lot. It doesn't just happen. You gotta work on it. And this is what, first and foremost, the Torah is telling us. First, understand that this is something, a basic human need to have relationships. Second, I want you to know, this is something which is up to you. It's up to us. Because as we're going to see in this course, when we invest in it, and when we invest in it based on the guidance of the Torah, we could actually have positive results. Well, if we look at our relationships, or for that, at anything actually, and we say, look, we're doomed. There's nothing I could do about it. Then definitely, nothing will happen, right? If you don't believe that you have what it takes to actually make it happen, then it won't happen. But if you believe that, well, you could do that. You could do it. It might be hard, but with the right tools, with the right attitude, with the right investment, you could acquire yourself this very basic, very needed relationship you will be successful. So this is another thing to keep in mind. All right. So this is I want to make it very clear so this is a general introduction to the course. So first of all, relationships, very much a very basic human need. Second of all, it's possible to better our relationships, to acquire. Now, of course, acquire doesn't mean to buy yourself a friend, right? That's not what we're talking about. Exactly. That doesn't mean nothing, right? And ask all teenagers today, they will tell you that. Unfortunately. But it means invest in it, work on it. And this is the relationship we're talking about. Now the question is, what kind of relationships are we talking about? What is a relationship? What constitutes a relationship? And here, I would like to draw your attention to figure 1.2 in page number 7. Now we're going to kind of skip a few things. These books are yours, and you could, of course, you will take it back home, and you could always reread it, review what we have learned. Judith Snow. Anyone heard about her? She basically came up with this 4 circles of support, which for the purpose of our conversation also in the next 6 weeks, this is what we're going to use to define relationships. And first we're going to go through them, and then we'll see what we could learn about. So what are the first 4 circles of support that a person has? And while we go through it, I will ask you, and soon you will be able to write it down, or write it down actually as we go along. I will ask you to identify for yourself one person or more, but one person in every category that you have. And specifically, it should be a person that you would love to advance your relationship with them. Okay? Someone that you would like to take this course in and actually advance your relationship with this person in each of these categories. Okay? What are these categories? So first of all, we have circle of intimacy. Now, circle of intimacy doesn't just mean husband and wife. Intimacy means everyone that you are intimately connected with. It might be a spouse, it might be your children, it might be your parents, it might be your siblings. People that are very much part of your life and you can't imagine life without them. Okay? That will be your first circle. Second circle is what she calls it circle of friendship. That means people who are very close to you, people that you, you're not intimately close with, but people that you trust, and you could talk to them, you could share with them, you know, to some degree. Doesn't mean, full on, intimate friend, but a friend. Circle of participation. This is people that you get in touch with. You go together to the same shul, you hang out together in a kiddush, or you go together in the club, co-workers, right? People that are part of your life. And then comes the circle of exchange, which is anyone that is kind of paid to be in our lives. If it's our hairdresser, or our secretary, whatever, whatever it is. Now, I would like to take now a minute for everyone to think of these 4 circles and identify a friend, a person in each category. Let's do it. Now, while you're still thinking of it, the ideas we're going to learn in the lesson are going to be relevant to all of them, to all 4 circles. But of course, how to apply it to everyone will be different. How do you apply it to your spouse, or to your child, or to your friend, or to your coworker will be different on how to apply it. But the general thing is going to be the same, messaging, and therefore, it's important that we identify those, and this is something that is going to make the course much more personal, practical. By the way, I think it will be interesting to note that Maimonides also identified 4 circles of relationships. He's actually quoting Aristotle, and he worded it differently. Worded it a circle of pleasure, that is intimacy, that is the actual person. Circle of trust, that's good friends. Circle of betterment, people that make your life better, and the circle of utility. That's interesting to know. Okay, any questions before we move along? Anyone on Zoom wants to ask something, or?
Yeah, what was the population of that town you said?
Oh.
everybody was?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Nothing too large.
Well, probably not, not too large. It was a small shtetl. Yeah, write it down, and Google will be probably very helpful. Okay, we're going to dive now very deep into the main idea of this class, first lesson, an idea that personally, myself, I find it very, very intriguing, very inspirational, and I hope you will find it as well. And this idea will become kind of the overarching idea that's going to go throughout the course. So we're going to spend now the time to really learn it and really understand it well. And I'm encouraging you to ask questions, to participate, to really get to the bottom of it, because this is a very important thing in who we are and what our relationship should be. Okay, let's go to page number 8. Anyone familiar with the story of the person who wanted to come to convert and came to Hillel and Shammai? Huh?
Oh, yeah.
Everyone is. Wow. Almost everyone. Not standing on one foot. Exactly. Okay. So I guess we don't need to repeat the story, right? But just for the record, so there was a person who wanted to convert and coming to Shammai. Shammai was a very a pretty tough person, and he came to him and said, I would like to convert on the condition you're going to teach me the entire Torah on one foot. What did Shammai say? Get out of here. Okay. Not just he said, he also did, but we're going to. But the guy actually was serious. He was sincere. So he went to Hillel. And what did Hillel tell him? Hillel told him what we're going to see in text number 3a. Bruce, take it away.
Hillel told him, whatever you find hateful when done to you, do not do to your fellow. This is all of Torah in its entirety. The rest is commentary.
Oh, wow. Okay. What is the entire Torah? So we came to Hillel. What did Hillel tell him? Okay, pick up your foot. Right? And he told him, whatever you don't like done to you, don't like to others, this is the entire Torah. The rest is commentary. Go study it. Do you understand this? Does that make sense to you? I mean, it sounds like a fantastic advice for life. But does that make sense to you that this is the entire Torah? I mean, honestly, it's not. I mean, what?
I like the idea of it.
The idea of it, I say, a fantastic relation. It's a fantastic relationship advice, life advice, gold. But how is that the entirety of the Torah? The Torah has many mitzvahs. Last I checked, it has nothing to do with interpersonal relationships, right? What about keeping Shabbos, eating kosher, putting it to tefillin, I don't know, eating matzah Passover? What does that have to do with don't do to your friend what he doesn't want? What you don't like? And by the way, side point, very interesting language. It doesn't tell him, love your fellow as your friend, as yourself, as the Torah said. He's going a very, interesting way. Whatever you don't like done to you, don't do to your friend. Why? Can you just speak clear? Okay, so I'm hoping to go back to this question. If I don't, please remind me. But the main thing is that we want to see is what's going on here. How exactly? What is Hillel trying to tell us? So Rashi, which is the main commentator on the Torah and on the Talmud, he's offering 2 explanations. You could see it in text number 3b. We're not going to read it inside. We're just going to tell you. First of all, he's saying he's bringing 2 possibilities to explain that. First of all, he said, a friend actually refers here to God because it brings a proof from King Solomon that calls God your friend. So, and therefore, I mean, that makes sense. Don't do to your friend whatever you don't like done to you. Don't do to your friend. Meaning, you don't like when people don't listen to you, right? You don't like when your desire, when your will is not fulfilled. Don't do that to God. Do you like this answer? Okay, answer number one. Answer number. Okay, we'll get there in a minute. We'll get there in a minute. Answer number two. Indeed, he was talking about a real fellow, a real friend, because a lot of the mitzvahs has to do with interpersonal relationships. Don't steal, don't kill, charity. A lot of it has to do with your friend. How do you like answer number two? So, Marsha, what don't you like about answer number one?
There's a lot open. There's still a lot.
Okay, right. In short, I think the problem with answer number one is if that's what Hillel meant, he would say it. He would have said. He would have said, God, why are you using the name, the term friend? How exactly the conference is supposed to understand that? So both of them aren't really satisfying. First one, because he was talking about a friend. I mean, that's not the simple way of understanding a friend is. And the second one is, okay, you say that most of the Torah, a lot of the mitzvahs, it doesn't say most, a lot of the mitzvahs are interpersonal. But Hillel didn't say a lot of Torah. Hillel said the entire Torah. The rest is commentary. So how are we to make sense of this? A relationship with your friend, with your fellow, is the basis of the entire Torah. What? Not basis. This is the entire Torah. Is there a way that one answer that really will give us an understanding of what Hillel trying to say? How is this the entire Torah? So let me just give you the point of the answer, and then we'll build it up. How about that? Okay. Hillel is coming and teaching us the most important rule in relationships and in general. You can't really form a real connection with someone else, a relationship, a fellow, friend. You can't really form a real connection with someone else without your soul. A relationship that is based on your body is not going to be a genuine, real connection with another. The only connection with another you could have is if you prioritize your soul and you operate on a soul level. Now, I know it sounds like Chinese. We're going to establish it soon. And this is, my friends, the entire Torah. The entire Torah is about prioritizing the soul, making you a little more refined or much more refined than who you are naturally or, by default. This is kind of just the gist of it. Now we're going to build it up. What does that mean? Why can a relationship happen from the body? How does that work? Okay. Any questions so far? Any? Our friends on Zoom, anyone? It's too simple. It's too simple. Okay. Let's unpack it together. What is body and soul? Why really a body cannot connect with someone else? What's going on here? Anyone familiar with the idea of two souls, two identities?
You're talking like the Tanya?
The Tanya.
Spiritual.
Very good. Yes, spiritual animal. Okay, so some people are familiar with that, but we are going to build it up. This is one of perhaps the most fundamental principle in the most fundamental book of Chabad, the Hasidic philosophy, the Chabad philosophy, which is called the Tanya. The Tanya comes and discover to us the idea of two souls. What are these two souls? So let's go back to Tanakh. Let's go back to King Solomon. King Solomon says as follows, page number 12, text number 4. Val? Yeah.
How many understand that the spirit of the human ascends on high, while the spirit of the beast descends to the earth?
Okay. What is King Solomon telling us? Simply reading it. He's telling us, many people think that humans are just more complicated, sophisticated animals. But here is the core difference between animals and person. What do you think? What is the core difference between an animal and a person? What makes us different?
Human has intelligence.
Intelligence.
And an animal has instinct.
Very good. Very good. What Barbara is saying, this is the core difference. A person, human being, has a nefesh, we call it a neshama, a soul, that is causing us to seek something which is greater than ourselves. Meaning, purpose. It's an animal doesn't have that. An animal has one agenda in its life. You know what that is? Food or a general thing. I mean, I know you're dealing with a puppy. Food and annoying its owner. An animal has one agenda, and this is self. Self. I want to survive. I want to live. I want to experience life. This is what an animal is. Is there something wrong with that? Absolutely not. This is what an animal. That's the nature of an animal. If you will give these conditions to a human, they will be miserable. Because a human is conditioned not to live like an animal. We look for something higher, more purposeful, meaning, purpose. And this is what Barbara is basically referring to by intelligence. We want something greater than ourselves. We always seek higher. And this is what King Solomon is telling us, that the human ascend on high, while the spirit of the beast always descends to the earth. It's always connected to earthly stuff. Well, while human, we also are connected to earthly stuff, but we always also want to ascend higher. But if we go a little, with high resolution into ourselves, this is where Tanya comes and tells us that in each and every one of us, we have two souls. That means two identities, two consciousness. Have you ever felt kind of, a hypocrite at times? Sometimes you feel like very altruistic, very, spiritual, giving, generous, caring. And at times you feel very selfish and very, egoistic. And you ask yourself, who am I? Am I altruistic or egoistic? Who am I? Anyone familiar with this struggle? All right. And you know what the answer is? This is where Chabad philosophy comes and tells you. Both are true. We have both souls. We have both identities inside of ourselves. We have our animalistic side. For the purposes of our conversation today, we'll call it our body. Okay? It's not really our body. It's our body and our natural soul, our animalistic soul. Let's call it our body for now. And we have our soul. Otherwise called in Hebrew, it's called neshama. That means our soul that always reaches higher, wants to connect to Hashem, wants to do the right thing, looking for purpose, looking for meaning, looking for goodness, looking to connect. And who we are, both. And this is a constant struggle that we have in ourselves, because we are one person. Imagine a car or a airplane. An airplane or a car could have only one driver. If you have two drivers, one taking the car to the right, one taking the car to the left, it's going to be a disaster, right? You can't really get anywhere. In our lives as well, we have one driver's seat. Okay? The question is, who is going to be on this driver's seat? And every day, in fact, every moment, we have that struggle, that conflict. Is it going to be, am I going to operate on my animalistic, natural self that is causing me to be to feed myself, to enjoy myself, to observe life, or am I going to be altruistic, spiritual, connecting to others? And I would like to show you here on the screen some of the we have to all right some of the okay, here. What is the animals? The animals saw, this is kind of some descriptions. Self-centered, hungry, jealous, short-sighted, confused, worried, needy, impulsive. Those are things that are very much associated with the animal soul. The animal soul always wants more. The animal soul always, someone else has more than me. Now I need to get that. The animal soul always is impulsive because you are in a survival mode. You're always on, you always need to feel yourself. You're needy. You need things. Yeah, please. Your animal soul is starving. Your animal soul want to have cake, want to have soup. But the godly soul comes, and the godly soul is the exact opposite. The godly soul is selfless, satisfied, other-centered, visionary, has clarity, calm, needed, thoughtful. Our godly soul is calm. Why? Godly soul doesn't have those needing in the, it's not always running after the next tray of sushi or the next steak or fill in the blank. And this is the core differences between the godly soul and the animal soul. Let's see text number 5. It's a fantastic text. Barbara, page 13. This is coming all the way from the Tanya.
Two kings locked in battle, each desperate to gain control over the same city, rule its inhabitants according to his will, and ensure that they obey his every decree. That same battle rages within each of us, between our two souls. Our godly soul and its rival, the animalistic soul, wage war over our bodies and all its limbs.
So this is our struggle. Now let me ask you, and if you will be like me, you will probably answer the same answer. Who are you more? What is easier more to identify with? Is it easier to identify with your godly soul or with your animal soul? My answer is definitely much easier to identify with the animal soul. Is it different to anyone else?
Yeah.
I mean, food talks to me more than a spiritual idea, right? Having a good time, it talks to me more than, because this is nature. Naturally, what is our default? I mean, we would like to look at ourselves as as amazing spiritual beings that other money and fame and physical pleasures mean nothing. But bottom line, we get up in the morning. What do we feel? Do we feel, oh, I need to go put on the film, or I feel like, oh, I need a cup of coffee? Okay, a cup of coffee, right? Middle of the day, you feel like, oh, I really need now a dose of Torah, or you feel like, oh, I really need a good lunch, right? This is who we are. And this is our default. Now, okay, it's a nice idea, but how is that connected to relationships? So again, what did we establish? We have two sides of ourselves. We have an animalistic, which is very much self-centered, very much after getting to enjoy the moment, survival mode. And we have the godly soul, which its all focus is on connection, and doing the right thing, and finding meaning, and connection to God, and that's basically what it is all about. There's no self there. There is no ego at all. Now, let me ask you, is the animal soul capable of forming a relationship with someone else?
Would be defined.
Why not?
Because it's not based on any interconnection or reaching out.
Very good. Anyone else wants to
Self-centered.
Self-centered.
Yeah, it's what can you do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The animal soul is only interested in others as much as it could add to my agenda. If you could add to my agenda, right? If you could advance my agenda, I mean, I'm putting it very much, very bold, okay? Because of course we don't want to think that. We want to think that we are very empathetic and everything else, and we have that part in ourselves. And if we would just operate on that level, we have that. But naturally, what does my animal soul look at others? Another way for me to advance my pleasure, my whatever it is that I want to feel, right? So the animal soul is only interested in others as much as it makes me feel good. Now, does that mean that the animal soul is rude, is bad? Does that mean that the animal soul wants to hurt someone? Not at all. Well, okay, there you go.
You know what's interesting?
Mhm.
Way at the beginning, like the first reading, we talked about the language of acquire for yourself a friend.
Yeah.
And I'm an elementary school teacher, and so it's like, make friends.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's not make a friend, but an animal soul, if that's like the motivation there, it's like make, find the friend that's like make it, make what you want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, because you want, I once heard about this rich person who was sitting with his wife. They're having a drink, and he really is a very rich person, and he got everything, and he's talking to his wife, and his wife is telling his wife, in a moment of truth, if I would lose all my money, would you still love me? She looks at him and said, of course I will love you. I will miss you too. Animal soul based love or connection for that matter cannot really happen. Meaning an animal soul kind of connection is only as much as I gain from that connection. We're going to see soon a fantastic video that shows exactly that point. The godly soul, though, its all agenda is connection with God, and therefore connection with anyone around it, because this is all part of the same God. This is all part of divinity. This is all part of my greater whole. So when I see someone else, when my soul see another soul, of course, right away wants to connect, because we are one and the same. When the animal soul see you, like, oh, nice to meet you. How can you help me? Right? So let's just kind of see this idea in the video. 1 second. My friends on Zoom, do you see or hear the video? Probably don't. So 1 second, let me share it again. Sure. Where did the option of Anat, do you hear the video? You don't. Usually there's an option of share audio and video. Oh, share sound. Okay. Now it should work.
There is a Jewish folktale that illustrates how vague the meaning of the word love can be, and also demonstrates some of the basic problems in statements such as, I love you. Once upon a time, a fisherman caught a large pike, and when he pulled the fish out of the water and saw its size, he said, "This is wonderful. I'll take it to the Baron. He loves pike." The poor fish says to himself, "There's some hope for me yet." The fisherman brings the fish to the manor house, and the guard says, "What do you have?" "A pike." "Great," says the guard. "The Baron loves pike." The fish feels that there is some corroboration of the facts. The fisherman enters the palace, and though the fish can hardly breathe, he still has hope. The Baron loves pike. He is brought into the kitchen, and all the cooks exclaim how much the Baron loves pike. The fish is placed on a table, and the Baron himself enters and gives instructions. Cut off the tail, cut off the head, and slit it this way. With his last breath, the fish cries out in great despair. Why did you lie? You don't love pike, you love yourself.
Okay, this is a fantastic example. All right. I love fish, but I could abuse the fish because I love it so much, right? So love is not really the opposite of abuse. Think about that. What is the opposite of abuse? A real connection. And a real connection can really happen from the soul. Again, the animal soul look at others. You know, you look at it. My animal soul look at other people as footnote in each biography. Okay, you're here to make my life more interesting. My godly soul, though, is deeply interested in you and you, godly soul. Why? Because we're all the same. We are part of the same. We're part of the same thing. And because of that, is a very interesting Hasidic saying. Let's go back to page number 14, text number 7. This is coming from for the first book that the Lubavitcher Rebbe put out, and these are short ideas from his father-in-law, the previous Rebbe. And here is saying something very interesting. Jackie, you want to say it? You want to read it?
When two people discuss spiritual growth and study Torah together, there are two godly souls against one natural soul.
So again, when two people get together, let's say me and Rob are sitting together, and we're talking about an idea in Torah, how we could advance our spirituality and do good in the world. So here we have two godly souls against one animal soul. How does that work? We're two people. I have godly soul and animal soul. You have a godly soul and animal soul. 2 + 2 equals 4. Last I checked. What do we see here? 2 + 2 equals 3. Two godly soul over one animal soul. What's going on here? Let's think about that. When we talk together and we try to inspire each other, to help each other, what happens is my godly soul deeply cares about you, right? So it wants to connect with you and wants to help you. My animal soul, does it care if you learn Torah or won't learn or don't learn Torah? Absolutely not. Completely apathetic. I don't care, right? Your animal soul care about if I do a mitzvah or not? Absolutely not. So what we have here is my godly soul and Rob's godly soul are both invested in let's better ourselves, right? While my animal soul, I keep for myself. His animal soul, he keeps for himself. So if we look at the battle, inside battle, so my godly soul is here to help your godly soul. My animal soul is not here to help this endeavor. So in this endeavor, do you get it? So in this endeavor that we're trying to inspire each other, we're trying to grow. Let's say I'm trying to inspire you to do a mitzvah. What we have here is, towards this endeavor, we have the support of two godly souls, me and you, going against only one animal soul. Either me or you, depending who is inspired who, right? Do you get it? Because the animal soul simply is apathetic, don't care about someone else. I know maybe it's a little bit of a difficult math for 7:50 p.m. But what's the idea here? The idea is, and this is again, it's important that we get it because this is going to be the overarching theme of this course. real relationship could only happen based on our godly soul, based on our better self. So if I'm asking you, what everyone's saying about relationship, be yourself, right? Be yourself in marriage, be yourself in a relationship. Do you agree with this statement? Be yourself? No, you shouldn't. Oh, well, so it depends. I mean, depends. There are many, many, many degrees. Right, exactly. That's the answer. Be yourself. It's important. Important to be authentic. Important to not pretend being someone else. But being yourself, if we understand, our default is being animalistic and care just about ourselves. That's not enough. Because if you enter a relationship with your animal soul only, and you're being yourself, it's gonna end very ugly. It could. Let's not forget the animal soul. Again, if I look at you, just how can you advance me? It is also capable that if, for whatever reason, I feel like you are not advancing my agenda, you're just ruining it. I have no problem to ruin your life. If I feel it's going to help me. Again, not that I have an agenda towards it, but if I feel like this is how I'm going to get to where I want to get, well, yeah. Again, from an animal soul's perspective, thank God we are not animal soul only, right? Again, but and not to say that this is bad. It's not bad. The animal soul just want to survive and experience life. The godly soul is the soul that's all about connection, and therefore, a real relationship, real care, real empathy, a real connection with someone else can only happen there. And we're going to see soon practically what that means. But if I want to advance and to better my relationship, first of all, what that means is I should infuse more neshama, more soul into my relationship. My relationship should not just be a body or natural soul based. It should be neshama. We should be more soul there. Now, we're going to see what that means soon. But that is the idea. That's the attitude. And that is basically what acquire yourself a friend means. Invest in creating friendships. And you know how you invest? When you prioritize your soul, when you start to be more in tune with your better self, with your soul, you start to look at others differently. Well, first of all, by the way, you start to look at yourself differently. And that is another very crucial part we're going to get to later in the course. Because the first thing before you get to love someone else, you should love the person that you see in the mirror, right? And that truly could only happen from the godly soul, because this is where your real true value is. And this is what you see in other people. The more neshama you infuse into yourself, that will definitely spill over your relationships. Now, how do you infuse more neshama, more soul into your lives? Well, first of all, it's starting to live a more purposeful life, all right? Because, bottom line, this is what we're here for. Now, and let's just take it for a moment back to Hillel. Does anyone see how that answer the question of what Hillel tried to, again, what did Hillel say? Don't do to others what you don't like done to you. That's the entire Torah. We asked, what's the connection? Do we get it now? Real connection could only happen when you prioritize, when you're in tune with your soul. What is the entire Torah? The entire Torah is about that. Why do we eat kosher? Do I eat kosher because it's more delicious? No. Because that's what God wants from me. Do I keep Shabbos because this is what this is how I'm going to be more successful next week? No, because that's what God wants. Do I eat matzah and Passover because it's delicious? Also not, right? All these mitzvahs, why do I do them? Because of the soul. The more in tune with your soul. I mean, sorry, the goal of the Torah is to get you to be more in tune with your better self, with your soul. That is, don't do to others what you don't like done to yourself. Practically speaking, don't abuse someone else just because you love them. Right? Don't abuse someone. You love fish. You love fish. Of course, you love fish. Exactly. Now, I'm not saying not to eat fish. I'm not getting there. What I'm saying is, love is not. And by the way, that's why I think Hillel is not saying love your fellow as yourself, because love is a very vague language, as we saw. But practically speaking, do you want to be a better person, a better husband, a better father, a better mother, a better friend? Start with don't do to them what you don't like done to you. It sounds so simple, but that's the basis of everything. If you don't like when someone is coming to tell you, you made such a mess yesterday, now you're going to clean it up. You don't like when someone is coming and telling you that, right? Don't tell that to your spouse. Don't tell that to your friend, right? Imagine someone is coming to you, day after election, and let's say someone that you didn't, without getting into politics, but let's say someone is coming to you, let's say, your candidate did not win, and someone comes to you, someone that their candidate won, comes to you saying, huh? 1 second. Would you like something like this done to yourself? No. So don't do it to others. Just don't. We could only do that when we start seeing past ourselves. When we start seeing past ourselves? When we are in tune with our soul, with our better self. And this is the entire Torah. How are we doing? How is that? Clear?
I sometimes wonder why I grew up civilized, because it's like, this was all.
Hidden. Okay. Another fascinating just observation, all right? And I think this is something worth writing down. If I will ask you, relationships, what is that? Is that physical need, emotional need, mental need? What is relationship? Anyone? Just quickly wants to jump in?
It's all of them.
It's all of them. Very good. Okay. You know why it's all of them? The way Judaism looks at relationships is a spiritual need. That's how we started. It's not good for a person to be alone. That means you cannot, your soul, which we want to make to be who we are, cannot do life alone. Doesn't want to do life alone. So having a relationship with someone else, it's a spiritual pursuit. Indeed, this is entire Judaism, as Hillel said, right? Because the second I start to see past myself, all of a sudden I could recognize God, I recognize my friend, I can recognize my spouse, I can recognize my child. It all depends on what do I see? Do I see myself or do I see someone else? All right. That clear? Any questions so far? Anyone on Zoom? Questions? Okay. I guess we're doing good. So as we started the class, in every class, we're going to learn the idea or the attitudes that drives Judaism's view on relationship, and then we'll also take a practical skill that's very important in relationship and see how Judaism teaches us about it. Today, we're going to talk about empathy. Don't know what empathy is, right? So, where do we find in the Torah empathy? Anyone wants to guess? We're going to do it quick because we don't have a lot of time. We still have a lot to cover, but anyone jump in?
Rachel and Leah.
Oh, very good. Very good. Rachel and Leah. So I discussed it with Shana before the class, and Rachel and Leah came up. I think Rachel and Leah is more compassion for if she realized, oh, my sister is going to be ashamed. So, which is incredible. But we're going to tune into something a little more empathetic. What is empathy? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now we'll talk about how do you tell your spouse that they're wrong. Okay. You see? Text 10a. Anyone familiar with the story of Joseph and the butler and the cupbearer?
Sure.
Anyone?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll sum it up. Joseph, a son, the 11th son of Jacob, he has an interesting relationship with his brothers, and they sold him. They wanted to kill him. They sold him into a few Egyptians back, and he's working by Potiphar. He's a minister by Pharaoh's administration, and then he's accused of falsely accused of trying to rape his Potiphar's wife, and he's being put into prison. In prison, he's basically figuring out, interpreting the dreams of the cutler and the cupbearer that Pharaoh sent into the prison earlier. Let's see it. Text number 10a. Bob, you want to read it?
Sure.
17.
Each of them, the cupbearer and the baker for the king of Egypt, who were imprisoned in the dungeon, dreamt a dream. Each one had his dream on the same night, and each dream had its own meaning. Joseph came to them in the morning and saw them. They looked disturbed. He questioned Pharaoh's chamberlains, who were with him in the prison of his master's house, asking, "Why are your faces poorly today?" They told him, "We dreamt a dream, and there is no interpreter for it." Joseph responded to them, "Do interpretations not belong to God? Tell them now to me."
Okay, so then he interprets, and we know that the cupbearer is going to go back to his job, and the butler is going to get killed, whatever. And then later they remember him, and that's how Joseph later becomes, who he becomes, and he saves Egypt and the entire world from famine. But how did it start? How did all encounter starts? What does the Torah tell us? Since it's fascinating. Joseph realized he saw them and they looked disturbed. Now let me ask you something. I mean, they're in prison. They're not in a bar. Of course, they will be looking disturbed. What does that mean? You notice they're disturbed. Everyone is disturbed. Everyone is sad. Everyone is not happy in a prison. Let's see how that Barbanel finds here the most fundamental piece of empathy. The Barbanel, one of the commentators, a very important commentator in the Torah, lived in the 15th century. We'll go back to Rab 10b.
Joseph specified today. Joseph understood and expected that an individual suffering incarceration would be in a foul mood and look glum. However, he asked because he noticed a distinction between that specific day and every prior day of their incarceration.
Fascinating. Madua pneichem zoafim hayom. Why do you look gloomy today? What does that mean? That means that Joseph was very much perceptive about the people around him, and he was able to be in tune with what they feel to such a degree that, I mean, every day. How do I know every day? Because he said, "Today you look worse than yesterday." All right, that means every day he was able to feel that people are disturbed, but he was able to tune into their feelings and see, oh, today they look more disturbed than usual. Not that yesterday they were all dancing and celebrating. Today they're crying. Okay, that's obvious. But even within sadness, this person is sadder. Is that a word? Sadder today than he was yesterday. That's called empathy, right? To tune into someone else's feelings. And first of all, recognize them. We're actually going to see text number 11. There are two types of empathy. Raise your hand if you ever heard of the difference between cognitive empathy, and it's called affective empathy or emotive empathy. You did, okay. So what's the difference? Let's say I read it from Brene Brown. Marcia.
Empathy, the most powerful tool of compassion, is an emotional skill set that allows us to understand what someone is experiencing and to reflect back that understanding. Most researchers agree that there are at least two elements to empathy: cognitive empathy and affective empathy. Cognitive empathy, sometimes called perspective taking or mentalizing, is the ability to recognize and understand another person's emotions. Affective empathy, often called experience sharing, is one's own emotional attunement with another person's experience.
All right. So there is recognizing, realizing someone is feeling whatever they feel. And then there is even deeper sharing with their pain. We're going to talk a little bit about it. Definitely what we see here in Joseph, it's not so much the emotive, the affective empathy, but very much cognitive empathy. Realizing that someone is not doing well today. Now, and this is a fascinating thing. Let's analyze a little bit Joseph, okay? Joseph was, in the book of mental health, okay? He had all the reasons in the world to be traumatic, self-centered, self-pity, anything. I mean, the guy was going through, his mother died young, when he was young. His siblings hate him. They tried killing him. They sold him. He's accused of rape, falsely. And he's in jail. You know how long at that point? 10 years. You can't get any lower than that. Your family don't care about you. Okay? You're alone in the world. Joseph had all the reasons in the world to say, someone else is not feeling well. All right, nice. I mean, why do I care? Right? Indeed, if Joseph was in tune only with his animal soul, definitely that he wouldn't be able to see past himself. I mean, he's dealing with such trauma. He's dealing with so much. How do you expect him to see someone else? But Joseph was in tune with a much higher reality. Let's see text number 12, how the Lubavitcher Rebbe brings it out in such beautiful words. Bruce, text number 12, page 20.
Joseph was made to suffer the greatest injustices. He was sold as a slave in Egypt and then jailed without guilt. One might have expected him to be embittered, angry at the world. Nevertheless, when he noticed that Pharaoh's chief cupbearer and baker looked unusually distraught, he approached them and asked, "Why are your faces poorly today?" The Seth descended from Abraham, regarding whom God proclaimed that he would command his children and his household after him to keep God's ways by doing righteousness and justice. Consequently, upon seeing one of God's creatures in a mood quite the contrary of joyful, after all, the mere recognition that a person is a creation of the Holy One should be sufficient to cause joy. Joseph took the fact that the matter had caught his attention as evidence that the matter was relevant to him. Therefore, he immediately sought to be of assistance.
You hear that? Joseph is completely operating on a soul reality. He sees someone that, yes, again, from an animal soul perspective, Joseph shouldn't care. And of course, they should feel miserable because the animal soul is not happy in the prison. But Joseph is looking past that. 1 second. This person is God's creature. And I saw a godly creature that needs help. That means that by divine providence, I am here with a mission to help them. So Joseph had empathy. Joseph had that ability to look past himself and go and help them. That means to be in tune with your better self, right? That means to talk the language of the soul. The animal soul doesn't talk this language. Creature of God, divine providence, right? We don't talk this language because I'm dealing with my trauma. What do you want from me, right? And my self-pity does not allow me to see someone else. Right? How often when we feel, kind of down and whatever, we are, and someone is calling us for help and we feel like just get off my back, right? Because this is our animal soul. But the second we realize, 1 second, I could be much better. I could look on myself and on the other person from a godly perspective. Then I am on a mission, right? Then I could actually be caring, and a real care is only through empathy. And this is what Joseph had. You can see also in number 13 another example from the Medrash of empathy. We're not going to go into it. The idea is, what is empathy? Empathy is realizing, understanding, and feeling the other person. You know, and why is that so important in any relationship? Because what is the relationship? I want to connect with you, right? I can connect with you really if I'm not in your space. And this is what empathy is. Empathy versus sympathy, and we're going to see soon the difference between them. Empathy and sympathy is very different. Sympathy means I'm looking down at you. Nebuch, you know what nebuch is? In Yiddish means, Jackie, you know what nebuch is?
Someone that's
Like it's like poor you, right? Poor you. And I really feel that I feel sorry for you. That's not what empathy. We're going to see soon a beautiful video that kind of encapsulates that. But the idea that I want to say is, I want to give. I want to connect with people. I want to give them what they need. I really want to have a relationship with them. The question is what to give, right? If you give or you connect on your level, you give what you want to give, that's not a relationship. That's an animal soul relationship, yeah. But a true connection is when I understand what they need right now. And perhaps what they need right now is encouraging words, a warm meal, whatever it is, right? Understanding, getting into someone else's shoes and understanding, to a degree, and understanding what they are going through. And then we have effective empathy. Effective empathy is not just, we're not going to go into all these texts because I still want to, you know what? Let's do text 14. I think it's important. Val, 37. Not 37, sorry, 23. By me, it's 37.
Rabbis Ami and Asi each suggested a method for handling anxiety. One said, cast it from the mind. The other said, speak it over with others.
Okay, so we're not going to talk about it. We spoke about it in previous courses. What that means, cast it from your mind. How do you do it? And how is that? It's very, very important, but not for now. The other is, talk it with others. What do you mean others? Val, continue 14b, continuation. That's it coming from the Rebbe.
They are others only in the bodily sense. However, they are wholly united with you, for they feel your reality.
To really get something off your chest, you need to find someone that is really going to share the pain with you. Not just someone going to say, oh, I really feel sorry for you. That's not enough. You want someone who is connected with you, could actually share in your pain. Let's see a wonderful video. How it's a pretty popular video. Brene Brown, that we mentioned earlier, help us understand what the difference between empathy and sympathy, and then we're going to take it a little more practical to our life.
Brene Brown is an American professor and social worker, a best-selling author, and a podcast host. In a relatable and engaging style, she clarifies the distinction between sympathy and empathy and illustrates the idea of an empathetic person putting themselves in the same emotional space as someone who is suffering.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, you climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no, you want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. And we do it all the time, because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
Wonderful. So, we all understand that empathy is very important, right? Very important if we really want to form a true relationship. But the challenge is, it's very hard, right? Especially when we deal with our own stuff. When we overwhelmed, when we are stressed about a medical appointment or a bill that they need to pay or a million and one things, right? We're dealing with our own, if you want to call it trauma, you want to call it or anxiety, overwhelm. We all deal with stuff. So to really be empathetic to someone else, when we ourselves are not, comfortable, that's even harder. How do we make it a little more practical? First of all, what we take away from this class, first of all, is understanding that empathy is the exact opposite of the animal soul. I'll be so early. Animal soul, by definition, is apathetic to someone else. Unless there's something I gain from it, which, by the way, studies have shown that people are actually, show more empathy when they're convinced they will gain from it. Like, men will show more empathy to women if they're convinced that will be more, the woman will find it more attractive. All right? Or whatever it is, right? Because bottom line, that's the animal soul. But if the animal soul doesn't have that drive, empathy is not a thing. The godly soul, though, the soul is empathetic. The soul does want to feel your space, what your emotions, your feeling, wants to connect with you really. So, first of all, the more in tune we are with our soul, right? The more we prioritize it, the more we could feel it in our relationships. But besides for that, there's also some practical ways that we could, different ways that we communicate with people. By the way, it's all about communication, right? This is what the relationship is. The base of a relationship is communication. So there are things that we could say that really convey what our godly soul feels, and this is empathy. Let's just take an example. We have 10 minutes, so we'll try to do it in 10 minutes. Let's do it in a fun way. So let's imagine, we'll take for this purpose, we'll take a relationship, an example of a husband and wife. Okay, again, it's not about marriage, it's not about husband and wife, but you could use it for, a mother and daughter, father and son, siblings, whatever it is. But where is the most arguments happening? Husband and wife. Okay, imagine husband and wife are having a discussion about the disruptive yard work of their neighbor. The neighbor is a good friend already for many years, Huh? Familiar?
Oh.
And now the husband and wife are discussing what should be done. Of course, the husband is all, I'm going to call him, I'm going to talk with him, I'm going to give him over the head. And the wife is saying, well, it's not such a good idea. Let's figure it out. And discussing, and then the husband said, I'm just going to call him. That's it. Ignores his wife. All right. He went to the other room, making a call. And he's coming back a few minutes later. He's all shaken. He thought his neighbor's a good friend. His neighbor started using such threatening language. And I don't know. I leave it to your imagination. All right. And he's all shaken. Terrible. Now, let's imagine what is the response of his wife. What do you think? What I told you so. What else? Anyone want to chime in? Well, what is the natural response that a wife would either say? I mean, in most cases say, but even cross their mind.
Should have listened to me.
You should have listened to me. Exactly. You should have listened to me. Anyone else? Anyone from Zoom wants to chime in? All this kind of response, you should have listened to me. Oh my goodness, we are going to face now terrible, situation. I can't believe you didn't take my advice. You're to blame for this mess. Oh boy, well, you need to clean up tomorrow, right? All these kind of responses are very natural. If the wife is a natural human being, one of these kind of similar language is going to cross her mind. Whether she's going to say it or not, that's that we'll see later in the course how to build better communication. But a natural way, again, the default way, of course, I told you so. But what is the immediate need? If you really want to foster this relationship, what is the immediate need of the husband?
Need to be listened to
Okay, listen to.
about what just.
Understanding,
About what just happened. He needs to be
Right.
listened.
That the main need is the husband right now need understanding and empathizing. The lectures you'll get to later. the joke about the guy who is driving 1 a.m. He's driving a little like that. So he's got pulled over, and the guy and so the guy's turning to the police officer and saying, I'm sorry, police officer, but I'm really late for a lecture. So please let me go. The guy's looking at him. It's 1 a.m. What lecture? Who's giving lectures who's giving a lecture at 1 a.m.? Like, follow me, come to my house. We're getting in. My wife is going to give me such a lecture. The lecture will come later. What is the need right now? And this is what Brené Brown, could see it in figure 1.3. This is what's called empathy misses. There's so many opportunities that, this happens all the time in all relationships, that we could be empathetic. But again, if we operate on our natural default, we are going to respond in one of these ways. You could see in figure 1.3. But what a real, true empathy look like? Anyone wants to come up with a good answer? Back to the story of the husband and wife. How what do you think? Think of it happening in your life. How would you respond in an empathetic way? How does the empathetic response look like? It's
a certain amount of understanding.
Correct. So how would the actual response should be
I feel
looking
sorry for you, darling.
Well, that's sympathy. I feel sorry for you. It's incredible, by the way. If that's the first thing you say, it's incredible. Because you are seeing past yourself. Not I've told you so. It's I feel sorry for you. But it's a very distant. Do you see why it's a very distant? Like, oh, you're going to deal with it. I'm very sorry for that. Right? It's a very distant kind of response.
Maybe asking him, how did he respond?
Kind of engage in conversation.
Well, yeah, so.
But maybe that will make him even more.
No, I'm thinking of my kids when I would have.
Yeah,
my
yeah.
kids
Go
come
ahead,
to me and say this, and I said, well, this happened,
Mhm.
but what was going on with you when this happened,
Very nice.
And that's,
So focus on them.
yeah.
Right. Very good. Very good.
I can say you must feel terrible about how this turned out.
Awesome. Awesome. You must feel terrible. Because
That wasn't what he wanted. That's.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Another idea could be, and I wrote it down before. It's so frustrating and upsetting to feel that your kindness and effort weren't met with understanding.
Yeah.
Right? I'm here if you want to talk.
There's an actual
Further.
show on TV, or at least I think it's still on, about neighbors who go after neighbors, that.
Really?
Yeah, it's a true story. And I have to tell you a really true story, and this, I know for a fact. Because I know the one guy, and he was having problems with his neighbor. And he got upset because his neighbor threw the carcass of a dead deer in his yard.
Oh.
And I was not empathetic, and I said to him, I'm not gonna see you on that show, am I?
Well, so we need to exercise, we need to find opportunities to be empathetic. And when you feel empathetic, that itself will create a much deeper connection. That is fostering. So when we miss those opportunities, we miss them. So if we operate on our self level, all right, natural default level, it's almost impossible to get to a true, real empathy, or any kind of empathy, because it's very hard to look past yourself. Think about the animal soul of this wife. Okay, the animals of this wife. In this incident with the husband, the animal soul is right away. Survival mode. Like, yes, that's me. I told you not to do that. Of course, it's not going to be empathetic. But the more we are in tune with who we really are, with our better self, the more we'll be able to connect with others and be more empathetic. So I guess we'll give you a little bit of homework, and this is to find things in your life, like what we just discovered, like this incident, and what would you respond? What would you respond if something like this comes up? And even if you don't do it all the time, but slowly, right? 2 incidents. If I take it tomorrow or the next week, 2 incidents that I'm really going to stop myself from responding and really think what the other person really, where they are. Where can I meet them? How can I go down to their pit and really be with them? That will be the art of empathy, as we call the class. So with that we conclude the first lesson, and we're going to continue next Wednesday with the art of listening. Next, we're going to talk about the very crucial element and skill of how to listen to another from the perspective of Torah. I hope you enjoyed tonight's lesson, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. Very good. And now I'm going to open it for questions and answers, or sharing any feedback that you would like to share and comments about this. And anyone on Zoom wants to ask something before we conclude the meeting? Okay, I see a whole bunch of okay, I see now a whole bunch of messages, and I'm sorry that I did not see it until now. I love the word cultivated, goodness, culture, friendship. Wonderful. Yes, to cultivate. This is what we do here. Cultivating relationship. Be a pleasure to live in taking attention. Yes, great points. Okay, anyone with any questions? All right, so I guess have a great night, and we'll see you guys next week.